Hello drawing students, this is going to be a demo on mark making. And for this you still need your drawing paper, you need your citing stick to cite and get correct proportions. You still need your graphite pencils to just plan out the drawing and get things correct and kind of plan out where you want your marks to go. But then what you use to make your marks, the mark making media itself, is pretty free for all. I'm going to be using these Staedtler pigment liner markers. So they come in different thickness and thinnesses, 0.1 to 0.7 millimeter, and they're pretty nice. So those thick and thin markers are going to be really useful in this drawing. They're going to provide a lot of contrast. So just know that whatever material you end up using, whatever media, whether it be markers or something else, you're going to want some sort of flexibility with that media. You're going to want to be able to use thick marks and thin marks so that you can add a lot of contrast to your drawing. So when we're using all of those different methods of mark making interchangeably, you don't necessarily need to use every single one. Just feel it out and feel what feels right for the drawing. Remember, we have hatching, cross hatching, contour hatching, parallel hatching, a lot of hatchings. We also have pointillism and scribbling. And scribbling is a pretty free-form, free-for-all thing, free-form mark, but it's a very controlled thing as well. So you're very intentionally and purposefully using those marks. And we're applying those marks in order to develop value. So remember those 6 zones of value: the highlight, light, shadow, core shadow, reflected light, and cast shadow. You really want to be looking for those core shadows and developing those with your marks. And remember, the density of the marks is what determines the value. So remember, as those marks get denser and closer together and layered more, we get darker areas, and as those marks get farther apart and more sparse, we have lighter areas. We just want to make sure that we're not filling any area with tone or with value like we have with the graphite drawings. You can use line sensitivity with this as well, but we really want to focus on using the marks to describe the value. And that's isolated marks used in a repetitious way next to each other and overlaid in different directions. But we can also use curvilinear marks, we can use parallel marks, right? We can use dots or pointillism or scribbling or really anything. Yeah, the main point of this is to have some fun. You'll see here that I've made a still life. I made another still life, but I've put a little bit of time into what I put in the still life. I chose some older things, but I also chose this plant because I wanted some more organic shape mixed in with all of these geometric or more straight-lined things. And specifically, I chose some things that are actually kind of sentimental. So, this is an old Christian book that I kind of themed this around my grandmother and more like family things. So this is my husband's book, but it's older, and it's actually really reflective of what my grandmother used to read. My grandmother passed away very recently, and I got some of her objects, and so these were her glasses, and this was her watch. This is a compass / some sort of ship thing that my dad gave my husband, and it's just like a nice old piece. It's about like directional, finding your way type thing. So this is about like life and and death and the cycle of it, and spiritual things, and a lot of things are wrapped around in this, and you can go many different ways for what all is in here. But basically the point is that I just chose some sentimental things, but also how I'm placing them. Again, I do have several different levels, and I have directional marks that are pointing in certain ways, right? With the glasses, the book, these lines are pointing this way. The watch is kind of going in this way. So it took some time and how this went all together, and so that it'd be more of an interesting thing for me to draw and spend a lot of time with. So that's what I want you to be thinking about when making your still lives, choosing objects that are maybe sentimental to you and placing them in a way that they kind of point to each other, that we have an interesting composition throughout the whole still life. All right, so I'm going to get started on this, and I'm going to switch cameras, and you'll get to watch this drawing from beginning to end. At the beginning of the drawing, I'm just going to be using the graphite pencils. I'm not going to pull out the markers until I'm ready, until I have all of my proportions drawn with my light pencils, and I have things where I want them to be. You'll see me use a lot of citing and some gesturing and really combining everything that we've learned and everything that we've talked about so far, using all the tools at my disposal. And then I'll jump into the mark making and we'll get to have some fun with that. All right.
you.